I'm going to say something a little controversial in this episode based off of something that we just experienced. So Anuj and I spoke at an event a couple days ago for my buddy Ryan, who has this networking event for real estate investors here in the Twin Cities. And he asked me to come speak, share some ideas with the crew. I almost never do this. I never speak at free events like this, free networking events. But he's a homie, so I did it. But the reason I never do it was reinforced by the experience that I had there. And Anuj had never really been to an event like this before, so he was going in there with like bright eyes and like, what's happening? Like, who are these people? Like, tell me more about it and all this and that. So he was excited, very different mindset. But the reason I don't go to free networking events, and I don't necessarily recommend that you do the same, is because when you go to a free event, you get surrounded by people who are only willing to go to free events. The quality of people is typically very, very low. It's a lot of tire kickers, people who are just getting into the game for the very first time. They like the idea of going and talking to people, but not necessarily doing the work to build the thing. And this was reinforced for me because at the end of my presentation, I'm up there talking. I'm like, okay, I'm here for another however long to answer questions. What questions you guys got? And one guy, he's like, listen, he's in the back of the room. He's like, oh, I love your YouTube channel. I've been watching it. You did a great video about, top books that you recommend, right? One of my biggest videos on the main channel is I read 613 business books. Here are the 10 that will make you the most money, right? And so everybody in the room said, like, the flavor of the room shifted in that moment, because before that, there was maybe one or two interesting questions. I can't remember exactly, but once that question got asked, suddenly everybody was more interested in what books I recommend, what podcasts I recommend, more than they were interested in asking me questions that might actually have been contextual to their situation and therefore could have helped them. And so when you go to free events, you get those types of questions, you get those types of people they will go to an event like that, they will get a book recommendation, and then they'll go home and they'll feel like they have done something. But if you really think about it, like, you haven't actually moved the business forward in any kind of meaningful way. You've just collected more information, and it's never a lack of information that's holding you back, it's a lack of implementation. And so over the last couple of years, I don't go to these types of events. I don't speak at them. I only speak at events typically where I'm getting paid to be there. And that's not just because I like getting paid to speak. There's a lot of expenses that go into traveling and whatnot. But generally, if people are willing to pay you to come speak, it's because it's a high quality audience filled with people who have paid to be there in some way, shape, or form. Either they're paying $100, $1,000 for a ticket, or they're paying $10,000 to be in a mastermind or some kind of group, and they're coming together. And the quality of person that you get is so much higher in that situation. The quality of questions that they ask is so much higher, because if you spent $5,000 to go to an event, you're not going to ask the speaker, what books do you recommend? You could figure that out with a Google search, right? You could just go to the YouTube channel, you could watch the videos that I've done on that. Instead, if you have an opportunity to ask me a question, I would say you should ask the best damn question that you possibly can that will help you unlock whatever constraint is currently standing inside of your way. And that question could be, hey, from your perspective looking in, what would you recommend I do to unlock that next level of growth? And I probably won't have enough context in that moment, but I'll ask some questions. I'll be like, tell me about your lead process. Tell me about your conversion process. Tell me about your product, right? You can share those things, and then we can help identify what is the actual constraint. And this gets to a higher meta lesson, which is the quality of your results is largely dictated by the quality of questions you ask yourself. If you ask better questions about the problem, you will get better answers. And this is why they say a problem well defined is half solved. Like, the better you can ask the question, the better the answer you're going to get. If you ask basic surface level questions, if you ask a Googleable question to somebody that you would otherwise pay to be in the same room with, you have wasted your time, right? Don't ask questions that you can Google or ask AI. When you have the opportunity, ask contextual questions. And if you don't know what that question should be, one of my favorite questions to ask people who are further ahead than me is like, what questions am I not asking? What questions am I not even aware of? Because it's interesting as you climb higher up the mountain of life and you get around people who have been hiking for longer and therefore they're higher up than you ask them things and they have more perspective. They're like question gatherers. And so if you don't have a good question, ask them, what is the question that I should be asking? So I was just thinking about that because I was top of mind based off of this event. And it was really funny because somebody DM'd me afterwards and they're like, it was a real bummer. I wanted to ask a question, but time ran out. And it seemed like the group was more interested in asking you questions about what you've consumed more than about what you've created. And I was like, yep, that definitely happened. And it was disappointing. It was disappointing because for me, because you have to understand when I go to speak at an event, when I coach, my goal is to help people make an impact on their life. And answering a shallow surface level question like what books do you recommend, it doesn't change anybody's life. And so it just makes me feel like I wasted time doing that thing. Now, that's not necessarily true. It was a great event still. It had a great turnout. Kudos to Ryan. And I totally understand why people ask those questions, but don't be one of them. If you're going to go to a free event, just be wary that you're going to get what you put in. And the other side of this is stop being such a cheap ass. Go pay to be around the people that you want to be around. High level people don't go to free events. You probably have to pay to get access to them. And I know that's scary, but I'm telling you, it's one of the highest ROI investments that you can possibly make. ROI investments. That's that's like an ATM machine. But anywho, that's gonna do it for me, guys. I'm on a little bit of a rant, but I love you. Anywho, let me know. I'm curious. Here's a question for you. Down in the comments, let me know, what is the most you've ever paid to go to an event or to be part of a group or to get access to a person, whether that's like a one-on-one coach or like a charity dinner or something like that. If you've ever paid for like a charity meal with a celebrity, let me know down in the comments. I'm kind of curious. So that'll do it for me, guys and gals. We'll see you in the next episode.